Some crimes leave behind shattered glass, stolen property, or a trail of physical evidence, but others leave behind nothing more than a locked door and a question that echoes long after the sun has come up. It's easy to dismiss this as mere vandalism, a senseless act of mischief, but look closer at the pattern. This wasn't the work of a chaotic mind. It was a calculated campaign. You have to give credit where it's due. The level of planning, the foresight, and the cold discipline required to execute this crime while being able to get away. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on a criminal who not only got your money, but was also able to escape without getting caught. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Join me as we view another case from Unsolved Mysteries in this installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary. Tonight, it is the case of the Crazy Glue Bandit. If there's one thing about me that you already should know, it is that I take a very hard stance when it comes to criminals and their crimes. I think that if you commit a crime, no matter what, you should pay for it. No ifs, ands, or buts. However, with that said, I cannot help but look at the level of preparation that went into this crime and be a little bit amazed. That's right. You can appreciate the planning that went into the crime, still not approve of it. This was not your simple smash and grab type of operation. No, this criminal, he actually tested the possible security system. He went to see how long the police would take to respond, and once he got all the data that he needed, that's when he decided to actually commit his crime. And we're going to be seeing that right about now.
All right, seal off the vault access points immediately. I want forensics to sweep this entire quadrant again. Nobody in or out until we clear it.
Alrighty, I got my headphones on. Let's pull up the video. 3, 2, 1.
In the early morning hours of November the 10th, 1987, a rock was thrown through the back door of a bank in Santa Barbara, California.
When I first watched this case when I was younger, I always thought to myself, what kind of bank never had or does not have a security system? Answer is, this bank had no security system. It is just like mind-boggling, even in the year 2026, that there are, or there used to be banks that had no security systems. To me, that screams like leaving the barn door open and allowing the wolves or the coyotes to ravage the area, you know? I always figured that just something like banks would always have some sort of protection, but nope, this one apparently they didn't. And apparently the guy who committed this crime, he must have known that they didn't have a security system at all.
At first, bank officials and police wrote it off as a simple case of vandalism. Later, they came to believe that it was the ingenious first step in a robbery that would net nearly $140,000.
$140,000. Damn. Excuse me. This isn't the only robbery type case that kind of gets me thinking like, oh my God, they did, this guy should be, kind of applauded for, his ingenuity. There was a case that I also want to cover one of these days where some bank robbers, they actually tunneled under two banks. They tunneled under two banks and they almost got away with over $1 million. There are some criminals that are just really freaking smart. And the guy who did this one right here, he's pretty damn smart.
California is the bank robbery capital of the world. Of all the
which is even more, shocking that basically you have a bank that had no security at all. Like Robert Stack just said, California is the bank robbery capital of the world, or the United States, whatever. And yet they had no protection. It literally seemed to be just like they kind of left a metaphorical "we're open" please rob us sign. You know, they hung it on the door, and it was just a matter of time until somebody actually took them up on their offer.
Robberies committed in the United States each year. 20% take place on the 200-mile stretch of coast encompassing Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. That is an average of 4 robberies per day, every day of the year. Although authorities solve better than 80% of these crimes.
I do want to say I apologize about the audio quality of this video. Basically, what it is that this is I downloaded this video from archive.org, and basically this is from somebody's VHS conversion. So this is not like a professional setup or anything.
The robbery in Santa Barbara that began with a broken glass door has them stumped.
Who spilled the wine?
Kids all over the
Oh my gosh.
all over the table.
Who cleaned up?
The waiters.
At 8:25 a.m. on the morning of November the 13th, 1987, at a Santa Barbara bank which has requested anonymity, 2 tellers assigned to open.
Do you think it could be that they requested anonymity because they realized that they fucked up by not having a security system? I don't even think they had like any security cameras either. Granted, back in the 80s, security cameras were not as prevalent as they are now, but I know damn well that they should have had at least a security system or some sort of security alarm. Hell, where I live, not only do they have security alarms, they even have guards that patrol the area at night.
In the bank proceeded with their morning duties.
How's your son's birthday?
That's great.
Nothing in the bank seemed suspicious, and all signs pointed to a day of business as usual.
Candles.
Their assessment could not have been more wrong.
Hold it right there or I'll kill you. Down on the floor for the money in front. Now this'll tell me if you've called any police. Do so and I'll kill you both. All right, now move back.
This guy, he was not screwing around. I think that this guy was a pro. I think that he knew what he was doing. Just the fact that he was able to command, you know, the situation as well as he did. I don't think this was the guy's first rodeo.
The robbers seemed calm, cold-blooded, and thoroughly prepared.
Okay, let's get the reserve cash out.
Okay. Sometimes.
No problem.
Now move back against this wall.
He knew exactly what he was looking for and seemed very deliberate in his actions.
The fact that he knows about like the reserve cash and all that sort of stuff, it also makes me think that this guy could have been like in the banking industry himself, like either like a courier or maybe even a former employee or something. I don't think that this guy was just your random criminal. Not only, like I said, not only do I think that he you know, was he known for doing these things before, but I think he was also an employee or a worker in that industry.
He wore a radio, which he said could pick up police communications, and he showed great familiarity with the bank's procedures.
Where's the rest of the reserve cash?
Our shipment didn't come in.
Your shipment didn't come in. Well, that's just great.
Which makes me think that by his reaction, it makes me think that possibly he may have known like when this bank's like their drop-off times and drop-off dates were, but maybe it was just that this one time around, it just did not work out, you know, and it caught him off guard.
At 8:30 that morning, the bank's manager arrived at work as usual. She tapped on the front door, expecting that the 2 tellers already inside would let her in. She got no response. Inside the bank, the robber was meticulously carrying out his plan. He handcuffed both tellers, one to the vault's interior door and the other to a movable cart.
Ladies, be good. I may be back to get your car keys.
Suddenly, the manager saw the robber. She ran to call the police.
Every time I see this right here, every time let me turn it off right there. You go. Every time I see a payphone, it makes me kind of feel a little bit warm inside, because when was the last time you could actually say you saw a payphone, you know, anytime, you know, within the last 10 to 20 years?
The The manager told them that the robber was still inside the bank and that 2 tellers might be in the bank with him. Police responded immediately and surrounded the bank within minutes of the manager's call. They set up a command post in the building directly across the street. Listening inside the vault, the 2...
Okay, to those who do not know, the theme that you're hearing right now in the background, this is the same theme that they used. That's part of the Tallman House case from Unsolved Mysteries, which I also covered on Halloween.
women thought the robber had left the bank.
Can you see him? I don't see anything.
The teller chained to the movable cart decided to risk calling the police. Once outside the vault, she could hear noises coming from the bank's 2nd floor.
Okay, so basically from that, that right there, the guy was upstairs. So he was trying to figure a way out of the building. I think he may have already known that the police may have either already been nearby or were already there. So he must have had a way out because they had all the exits basically blocked off. How did this guy escape?
We've been robbed. Guy's still here.
Where do you hear him now? She told us that she could hear the suspect moving around on the 2nd floor, various noises and things being moved, and was very adamant about the fact that he was still in the bank.
I'm handcuffed. She's in the vault.
Because of the information that the suspect was still in the bank, I reacted with the SWAT team to a potential hostage situation.
The SWAT team moved in on the bank building itself. They covered all possible exits in order to trap the robber inside.
And yet he somehow still got away. So it makes me wonder, could it have been, I'm kind of like running through possible ideas in my head when I watch these cases. And I'm wondering, maybe this guy was, if he wasn't part of the, like if he was not an employee of the bank or had knowledge of the banking procedures or whatever, what if he was a person that helped build that building and he knew maybe of some secret, like little secret crawl space or something?
Once the exits were secured, the team's first priority was to ensure the safety of the hostages in the bank.
After determining that one of the tellers was able to move around in the bank, I felt that it was in our best interest to remove her so we could talk to her and certainly cut the threat by 50%.
Yeah. Okay.
The other teller being forced to stay in the vault, I felt that the best course of action for her was to have the first teller lock the vault as she left the bank.
I have to lock her in the vault?
She's like, no, fuck that. I don't want to be locked in a vault. And I'll be honest, I don't blame her. Those things are airtight.
I don't want to be locked in here.
Thus, freezing the second teller from any approach by the suspect so that the suspect then couldn't take her hostage and use that as any kind of a shield. During the time I had done this, we talked by phone with the vault company and determined how much air would have been in there for her, and we had bank employees who had the combination they provided to us so we could get her back out when we were ready. First teller, on my command, moved out to the front door where she was met by the team, who would then cut her free from the handcuff and brought her back to the command post where we could interview her to find out more details about the robbery and develop a more detailed plan for search and apprehension inside the bank.
This is the Santa Barbara Police Department. The bank is surrounded. We want you to exit the front door holding your hands in the air.
Our entry team then entered the bank after several attempts to call the suspect out, searched the ground floor of the bank. Once they did that, a second SWAT team officer, who had been practicing with the bank combination on a similar vault, went into the bank, opened the vault, and was able to free the second hostage and remove her from the bank. At that point, when the second hostage was out of the bank and safe, our operation simply became a search and clear type operation, searching the bank for the suspect.
And like I said, where did the guy go? They literally had the entire bank blocked off. All possible exits were blocked. This makes me think that, if this guy had a hand in building, construction of this building, maybe he knew that there's like a secret room or a ventilation access or whatever. He didn't leave the building. Where the hell did he go?
Yeah, come on, John, I'll show you what we did.
Police searched both floors of the bank inch by inch. All exits had been watched every minute since the bank manager's call, yet no sign of the robber was found.
The handcuffs.
Amazingly, the robber had disappeared, along with most of...
People just don't disappear. They don't have powers. They're not superheroes. He had to have known that there was either a crawl space that he could stay in like until the end of the day, or there was an exit that the police were not aware of.
the contents of the vault.
As you can see, this is safe is open, and this is where we found it.
The normal take in a bank robbery is certainly under $1,000. In this robbery, the suspect netted upwards of $130,000.
That's a lot of money.
Police dusted for fingerprints but found none. However, they did find one fascinating clue to the robber's modus operandi.
A few days later, during the course of investigation, we found that he had glued the alarm buttons in such a manner as to disable them so that they wouldn't activate the normal robbery alarm. This never became an issue in the case because none of the tellers were able to get to the alarm buttons, but it goes to show the extent that he went to make a successful robbery of this.
Police and the FBI began to piece together the robber's game plan.
Like I said, I'm not condoning the crime. I don't appreciate the crime, but I can look at the planning that it went into doing this and be like, okay, that was something unique. You don't see that every day.
They theorized that the rock thrown through the bank's back door earlier in the week was thrown by the robber himself, testing for a perimeter alarm. Authorities believe that after he broke the door, he waited nearby to see if there would be any kind of police response. When there was none, he knew he could tamper with the bank's outer doors without fear of police intervention.
The thing that really gets to me is that, that they knew that the door was vandalized. The next day, they had to have known that the door was damaged. It did not dawn on them at all that, oh my God, we were not aware of this until we got here. Maybe we should have some sort of security system. Or maybe at least have like a guard. If I owned a bank, the one thing I would do is, if I didn't have a security system, which I don't know why I never would, but if I did not have a security system, I would have a guard, maybe 2 guards, that would just be constantly patrolling. This bank didn't have anything. No guard, no cameras, no security system. It sounds like it was a recipe for failure, if you ask me.
Authorities speculate that he returned 3 nights later and forced his way into the bank.
The suspect drilled out the deadbolt lock on the door, which is how he gained entry to the bank. He just artificially disguised the lock so that when a cursory examination was made, it looked like it was still locked, and it wasn't the door that was normally used by the employees in any event, so it wasn't discovered until...
Why would, besides possibly for, like, say, fire, escape, or whatever, why would you have a door that you never really want to use, that you never use? I would look at that and I'd see it as like a security risk.
Long after we were in our investigation.
Once inside the bank, the robber glued the alarm buttons and waited for the tellers to arrive.
In my mind and in my experience, an individual that's this cunning presents a real threat. If any of this had failed, both of these tellers would have been in a real precarious position. And an individual that commits this kind of robbery where he's bold enough to take the steps to enter a bank, wait there for the employees to arrive, and then essentially take them at gunpoint, move them around the bank, force them to do certain things. He's very calm, cunning, and quite dangerous in my mind, realistically. Very dangerous.
Through their investigation, the FBI believed they had uncovered the identity of the Crazy Glue robber. But before they were able to make their case, the suspect died in a motorcycle accident. The FBI now considers the case closed.
If they were right and they had that the person who did this robbery ended up dying, if he did not die, the one question that I would ask him is, how did you get out of that building? How did you get out of that building? Because I have a feeling that if he looked at me and goes, hey, Jeff, I was one of the people responsible for building that building. I was on the construction crew, and I know that there is a safe room. Or some sort of unknown room. If there's one room like that in a bank, there could be rooms like that in other banks. Which means that people, if they knew about this room, they could basically hide out, That's basically the way I kind of see it. Okay, guys, it is now time for one of my favorite parts of this show. It's where I go to the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki, and we see if there's been any final updates regarding the cases that we see on this video. So, let's do this. Here we go. Here we are at the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. Basically, this is where I go, like I said before, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, this is something that I always do. Anyway. This is part of the California 1987. It is the robbery, and oddly enough, it says captured, which kind of makes me kind of scratch my head. It's like, really, the guy was never actually apprehended. He died in an accident before they could do anything. Anyway, the case name is Crazy Glue Bandit. The real name is unknown, no known aliases. He was wanted for robbery, and the individual was missing since November 1987. We already know the case details, so let's scroll down to extra notes. This case first aired on the February 15th, 1989 episode. It was excluded from the Amazon Prime and Film Rise episodes. Results: solved. The FBI later identified the suspect in the case, but the man died in a motorcycle accident before he could be arrested. The case is now closed because authorities believe they had enough evidence that the man was a robber. Call me cynical, call me skeptical, call me whatever you would like. What's there to say that they actually think that they had the person, but it turned out to be the wrong person? What if they just decided to go this route? Because there are times that the police, FBI, CIA, or whatever, they would rather just go for a quick answer instead of actually investigating. What if the person who robbed that bank is actually still alive? We may never know, because the FBI believes that the person that died in that motorcycle accident was this person, or was the robber, But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. There is nothing else besides a couple links. And I'm going to put all this information in the description. You can find it in the description. But yeah, so that is it for the case wiki portion of this video. Okay, it is now time for the episode information. This is basically where we go and we see what other cases were on this episode that the Crazy Glue Bandit, that this case was part of, So let's go back to the Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. And I already kind of looked up the information, so I'm not kind of like fumbling my way to try and find it. And I have it right here. So it looks like that this was actually a pretty busy episode back on February 15th, 1989. It was also repeated on June 28th, 1989. This episode actually had a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cases. Now, granted, some of these are updates, so they're probably not going to be that long. But normally for Unsolved Mysteries, you get 4 to 5 cases. 7 cases. Wow, that was actually something for this. Like this was a stacked episode, I guess you could really say. It was just stacked. Okay, so we have the first case that they aired in this episode, I'm guessing. It was the murder case of Mickey and Trudy Thompson. Basically, Mickey Thompson was a famous race car driver. One day, him and his wife were brutally murdered. I think they were murdered in the driveway of their home. And it was not a robbery because they still had like their money and jewelry. A lot of people are believing that it could have been a professional hit that that Mickey and Trudy suffered. Up next, we have an update to the wanted case of the Bald Mountain shooters, and this is actually a case I just covered recently. It's about a bunch of horses that were slaughtered for no real reason. I am a person that believes that animals are a service to humans, and to basically kill these animals without like taking anything from them, like their hides, their meat, or whatever. It was a waste of resources, basically. Then we have the Crazy Glue Bandit. After that, we have what I think is the best Bigfoot case that they ever covered on Unsolved Mysteries, the Bigfoot in Colorado case. Basically, the thing that really sticks with me regarding this case is I think it was a father and son. They were watching TV late one night, and they started hearing a noise. It was just like something was just like trying to break in their back door. And in the morning, when they checked the door was damaged, and they found like things of hair in the mesh. And I'm guessing it came from Bigfoot. After that, we have the case of George J. Stein. If I remember correctly, I think this is the guy. This is the individual that lived if I remember correctly, I think he lived in the YMCA. Hold on, let me see here. YMCA? No, that's not the one I thought it was. George J. Stein. Who was the one that lived in YMCA? I thought it was George J. Stein. But anyway, this is an individual that basically he basically saved a lot of money, and he saved a lot of money, and when he died, they were trying to figure out who this person was. That way they could give, his family the money. I could have sworn that it was, no, I'm thinking of Howard Drummond. Was it Howard Drummond? Hold on. Howard Drummond. Unsolved Mysteries. Is it Howard Drummond? I think it's Howard Drummond. Hold on, let's just do a quick look. Yep. It's Howard Drummond, and like I said, it's a sad case that this guy, he actually had a fortune valued at more than $250,000. But anyway, let's go back to this. Close that out. So we have George J. Stein, and then we have the murder of Joyce McLean. I honestly cannot recall that case. One of these days, I am going to cover all of these cases, so you don't have to worry. It's going to take a long, long time, but my goal is to get every one of these cases covered and everything. This is going to be like my legacy. It's going to be like my legacy and everything. And then finally, we have the update to the one case of Jean Marie Gagnon, and I cannot recall this case either. But like I said, for a TV show that was supposed to be like an hour long, but after you take off commercials, it's more like say 40 to 45 minutes. To have seven, entries in that episode. This was a stacked episode, ladies and gentlemen. I give them credit. Wow, a lot of stuff went into this episode. But that is it when it comes to the episode information for the Crazy Glue Bandit. This case is actually not on Amazon or YouTube, so there's no real comparison I can do between the televised airing and the internet uploads, basically. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are just about to end yet another installment of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who takes the time out of their day to watch these cases. If anything, some of these cases that I cover may or may have not been solved. If a case has not been solved, then by doing this little act, it just helps keep these cases active in people's memories. Because the one thing we cannot do, we cannot allow, especially cases that involve crimes like this one, we cannot allow it to basically be forgotten. And the fact that basically, this case, for example, this case is not uploaded, regularly to YouTube from FilmRise. So basically, it's a little bit of it's lost content. So the fact that it's lost and everything, it just makes some of these cases even harder to solve. And if nobody remembers it, then if it's based around a crime, then that crime will be allowed to continue forever, basically. But that is it for this installment. We have to move on like we always do. However, I got the next installment ready, so I'm going to present to you the case of George Owens. Basically, George Owens was a respected member of his community. He was the head of their church. I think they said an associate preacher, I think they said it was. One day, George disappeared, never to have been found or never to have been seen again. Basically, the last thing that they found was his vehicle. His vehicle had wood branches in the back seat, and if I remember correctly, his cane was laying against the side of the car. A lot of people believe that possibly George Owens, he met with foul play. I tend to have a sadder opinion, or a sadder theory, I guess you could say, regarding the fate of George Owens. And honestly, I think that due to his age, he may have sadly had a stroke. He became lost. He became disorientated, and sadly, the nature basically claimed him. That's basically what I think happened. But we're going to be talking more about this case in the future when I cover it. But that is it. As always, if you like what you watch, feel free to click that subscribe button, click the like button, and I will see you next time. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.